Okay. Okay, good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining us. I've always been interested in old technology, how people managed before we had the modern technology, which basically, I suppose, started in the 19th century with the Industrial Revolution. But it was fascinating to look at windmills in the Netherlands, and then I came across this one in Nashdifan in Iran, and I was absolutely fascinated by that 1,000 years back. And so then I just sort of collected a few of them together, and we can watch 3 of them tonight. I think the total time is less than 29 minutes, so we've got plenty of time to chatter about it if we want. And okay. Thanks, Derek. We can take it away. We can stop recording. Recording again.
Yeah.
Right. Fantastic. Pity the quality of the Nashdifan second video was not really good, and it was difficult to follow there. What I did see when I first saw it was that the old guy there who was maintaining it was getting stoned by the children running up and taunting him, which I thought was terribly sad. But I mean, it was quite a job, that maintaining that old machine, 1,000 years old, and it's still operating today, apparently.
Yeah, I find it fascinating that they thought that vertical design would be the best for them. It just makes sense. What it looked like, the way it works, they had a sort of opening on one side, so the wind would flow horizontally through it, but then also it had a bit of a twist in the planks. So there must have been a bit of a vertical push, like up the chimney as well, giving it additional sort of momentum. So I thought that was very interesting, and sort of, I mean, recently with all different people,
very much so.
You see YouTube videos. Oh, we've invented this new patent, which is much more efficient than the normal blades, and it's actually the same design as this 1,000-year-old design, or very similar principle. Yeah.
Derek.
Hello.
Hi. I just remembered, and I think I saw something on TV about these vertical windmills, that they're also used inside. They have arrangements within the people's houses, and they're actually, this thing acts as an air conditioner. And that's sort of, because the hot air rises.
Yeah.
And that they have this sort of system up in the roof section, or they have it on their flat roofs, and actually helps to draw the hot air up. And then they let the cool air pulled in through the doors and windows. So that just suddenly popped into my mind. So I think the similar principle is used, that the wind at the top actually effectively sucks up the hot air from the houses and air conditions them.
Now the wind, the vertical turbine is very much in vogue now. But of course, that's very much higher technology than we've been looking at. But I understand the vertical turbine is a lot more efficient, so I'm told.
Yeah, I think there's less wear on the components, because one of the problems with wind turbines is that these things have to deal with huge forces, and then they also get worn out.
Finished. And you put this in the dishwasher. This. Why do you put it in? I told you it wasn't finished.
Who's talking this?
I don't think there's a wind turbine in the dishwasher. But yeah, I have seen that they're starting to use these vertical wind turbines rather than the large blade ones in some places.
Yeah, there are a few examples of that in Hermanus. People are trying vertical wind turbines to provide electricity, driving a little generator to charge their batteries. But there's a fairly large one. If you going down Main Road towards the circle, heading out to Stanford, if you turn up the road to the Ferncliff Reserve, in that garden, the guy's got a fairly large vertical wind turbine. And I've always wanted to stop and have a chat to him to see how efficient or how effective it might be. And I still need to do that, I think.
Is that
But
easier
getting back to
visible
the
from the road?
No, not easily, Derek. But if you turn up the road and look to your left as you're driving up, you can see it in the garden.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder,
There are
I
other
presume he's got
examples here.
permission from the municipality and all kinds of things. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, vertical turbines work in small capacities, I think. And they're trying to scale it up. Some work is being done by the Danes, I think. They're all very good. The Danes are very good at wind turbine design technology. But what fascinates me, Derek, about both of those videos is the skills that we used to develop the mechanics of the whole system. We've lost that ability today to make a plan, if you like. And there's a very good example of a Boermaker plan, if you like, in the south of Chile in 1860. Germans were encouraged to immigrate to Chile to help them develop the agricultural sector in about 600 kilometers south of Santiago. And there's a very, very interesting museum of all the tools and devices that those Germans developed, largely, I suppose, using what they'd known from back home in Germany. But they built some very, very, from harvesters to washing machines to lathes to saws to all sorts of things. It was all in the hard timber that they could harvest in the south of Chile in those days. I suppose part of clearing the land for their agriculture. But the museum is very well run and very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Sounds, David, like a possible subject for a future study group. I would be very interested in that. If you can give me some leads on it, I can look up in the meantime. But I would really like to go into that. And also, we will be talking, I'd like to have a study group session sometime in the future about the modern turbine system. And we'll be talking about vertical turbines as well as the conventional propeller type. Derek and I shared a bit of a news item the other day about the Windrunner. They reckon they have to build a special aeroplane to transport a blade of, what was it, 39 meters long or something, Derek?
Yeah, something incredible now.
Which can't be
Couldn't go by road.
transported over land. It can be transported in a ship on the sea, but it can't be transported over land, which is quite interesting. So they want to develop a special aeroplane. I don't know if that's going to happen.
Yeah, the biggest aeroplane ever built. It's just physically big. Big enough to fit a blue whale in, I think.
Yeah, I think the blade length of those, the modern generators, they're looking at something like 8 megawatts now. And the blade length of those is something like over 110 meters. So the overall diameter, the swept area is huge, 250 meters diameter. It's amazing. Yeah, they're just constructing those blades as a work of art in a long warehouse workshop out of carbon fiber and whatever else nowadays. Yeah, very interesting.
Just to come back to the old mills in the Western Cape, Peter knows Andy Soff, it sounds quite well, and I was not at school with him, but with his brother, quite famous for his links with the DA party. But Andy Soff is a farmer. He farms apples in Elgin, And he goes around the country fixing these mills and they're mostly water mills, but there are some windmills. I think Mostard's mill is a windmill, yeah.
Yeah.
And he, when he's been through a session, he always takes a lot of photographs, and he makes on Facebook. He makes a long commentary about all the things and all the technical terms. And I've always said to him, you must put all these things together into a book. Are you worth it? And it's a lot of work. And so I think he might actually be a great person if he can get a lot of this info together of all the work he's done on all the mills around the Cape and so on, and in other places, other things he's done up in Free State and so on. And give us a talk on it. I mean, he could probably give a 6-hour talk on it, but he'd have to condense it, obviously.
Derek, he obviously, I think once a month now, he operates that mill at Beaumont.
Yeah.
In Bottrop. Yeah. And
then there's a couple on wine farms as well, and then Mostard's mill as well.
Yeah.
Is that Mostard mill? Is it a water mill or something?
No, Mostard is a windmill.
It's a windmill.
No. It's a windmill.
Right in the teeth.
Windmill, but I mean, does it pump water or does it?
No, it mills. It's got a mill stone for milling grain.
Milling grain, yeah, milling flour.
So, for example, the Beaumont one runs off water. I've got a little stream going past next to it. And every now and, I don't know, once a year or something, they get a hold of a few bags of wheat and they actually mill the wheat, and then they make meal, and then they make bread out of it. Sell it in the farm shop.
So you can buy the.
I remember at Dwarsrivier that the vineyard in the Cedarburg has a small water run mill.
Yeah.
As you drive in, it's on the right.
Plenty of examples around the country.
Yeah. But
there's
interestingly,
one in the farm, other side, Villersdorp, that he was working on as well. Get what it's called. The big wine farm as you head sort of halfway to Worcester from Villersdorp.
It's interesting in Cape Town because the mills were not only used for milling wheat, but they were actually quite important in the beer industry, which grew up around the Vliesbeek River. And that's why Josephine's mill is where it is. And that's right next to where South African Breweries is still.
Okay.
They used to actually the water from the river to help with the beer, for making beer.
Right.
And so that's why there's quite a long history of water mills and windmills in Cape Town. But part of that was, and that's a section of Warrandybush and Newlands was associated with the beer industry, which was developed by Nordic. I don't know whether they were Norwegian or Danish people who were imported and actually came and developed the beer industry in South Africa.
Denny, I presume that this is that somebody must have done some sort of research and compiled
I know there's
the story of mills in the Western Cape at least.
Yeah, and I mean Josephine's mill is the best example, and it's all been restored and it still functions, and that's where it is on the Vliesbeek River, right next to where the Olsen's Brewery used to be. It's now part of SAB. But there was a whole series of them up the Vliesbeek, going up towards the mountain, and then along Newlands Avenue area.
Even these quick videos that we watch now, I mean, as you're watching it, there are a lot of sort of questions one has with that. Obviously, there was no time to go into it, but you wonder, how does this work? How does that? Now, that one with the sawmill, I suspected when I first saw that thing with the hooks going up and down, that was something to do with the feed, and then he explained that a bit in the end, but he never showed really how it links, how the hook's moving, how it converts to the actual feeding end of the log. That would have been interesting to see how that actually works.
Yeah,
I know on the Josephine mill, they actually wrote there was a book written on Josephine mill by, well, it was sponsored by the brewery, but it was done probably 20-30 years ago. I actually had the book, but I just lost it.
and it was all restored then because it was actually derelict and falling down, and I think the breweries actually put the money in to actually get it's a lot of work and cost.
Correct.
But I'd say that's just one example of what I gather. There were numerous, and I'm not a massive number, but there might have been a dozen or so mills, and a lot of them were associated with the beer business or the beer industry, which obviously also includes grains, because they use grain.
Okay, I thought that was quite interesting. Thanks for the topic, Peter.
Yeah, they're fascinating and very nice videos. They're actually very informative.
Yeah. I was really
Just
fascinated
one
by
little-
those ancient vertical turbines. And the one thing, by the way, for generation of electricity, the cost of a wind turbine on a sort of home scale is just nowhere near solar. It's about,
No.
the kilowatt per rand that you get is about 20 times more expensive for wind. I think that's why you see very
I agree.
few wind generators. I mean, obviously it does generate
Yeah.
at night, and when there's no sun and so on, which is the one advantage.
What did absolutely astound me
Saying
when I
that,
was
if I
watching
may.
that bit about at the bottom of the column there was the actual sheer power of that thing, the muscle of it. You don't want to get your fingers caught anywhere near that.
Yeah, the guy's living. I mean, imagine if you're sleepwalking in that bedroom and you get your toe stuck in there by mistake. You'd be sort of bone meal at the bottom of the thing in the morning before anybody realized what was going on.
You don't want to walk past there with a loose gown.
Yeah, you've got a scarf on in winter
belt.
or something, and you wrap around it.
Yeah.
Now,
But
by
Dirk,
the
sorry,
way,
one
what
interesting.
in Holland?
Sorry, I was just about to say, Derek, that during the Second World War, I read a story somewhere about the mills on those polders in Holland being used to send messages secretly between resistance groups. Does anyone else know of that?
How did they do that?
They
Put flags up on it or something?
they set the blades like a semaphore.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
they wouldn't be rotating. They would be set at an angle, so you could read it like a semaphore flag.
Okay.
Okay.
Clever.
That's
So,
amazing.
yeah, it was. Yeah.
All right. Anybody else got comments? All right. Thanks to everybody for attending. Everybody's still there.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Peter.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks very
Good
much for
job.
joining us. It was a good session. Thoroughly enjoyed it, and some food for thought there for some future sessions of the study group.
Yeah, very interesting comment. I'm particularly interested in ancient development of agriculture, by the way. So if we can find more stuff on the stuff, I think it was David mentioned in Chile, that sounded very interesting.
But I'll try and get
Yeah.
some more info on that.
Thanks. Okay.
Yes, I'll be
All
in
right.
touch with you there, David.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. I'm going to log off now. Enjoy
Thanks,
the rest of
Derek.
your evening.
Thank you.
All right.